Good afternoon and welcome to Just Jocelyn. I'm so glad that you could join us. I have my guest once again, Wayne Saya, and coming back to discuss another issue, problem, event, truth that is has been of concern to all of us and is very concerning in the very near future. It's something we need to all be completely aware of. You cannot have your head in the sand. You cannot be an ostrich. You can't be sitting on the comfy couch saying, I don't want to hear this, la, 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 because this subject affects each and every one of us. It affects your innumerable rights. It affects, in New Hampshire, your 39 enumerated rights. If you don't know your rights, you don't have any. And this is the problem, that we have been indoctrinated, don't like the word, sorry. We have been conditioned that our legislators, our judges, the three branches of government know what's best for us. And because we elected them, they're in charge of our lives. They make the decisions. They decide what's best for you and me. They will tell you how many taxes you will pay, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe back in the time of our founding fathers, when they wrote the Constitution of the state of New Hampshire, things were balanced and fair, and the three branches of government worked the way that they should. And the people knew their rights and held their legislators, the public servants, which they are, 1,000% accountable, and not the definition of accountable that we have today. Truly accountable, that if we say, this is a problem in our community, we want this fixed, make a law, the legislator says, okay, puts it out for out on the floor, and then it comes back to us, we the people, to vote yay or nay. This hasn't been happening for a very long time. And the subject today is the hazards of voting here in New Hampshire. What am I talking about? Specifically, the AccuVote Dominion voting machines. The machines that count the paper ballots. The ballots that are supposed to be, according to the New Hampshire Constitution, by the moderator, sorted, hand count, and sorted with the town clerk and a selectman and or alderman. Not happening. We've got these fancy-dancy machines that are going to save all this time. Yet France does millions of paper ballots, and they're done by 10, 11 o'clock at night. So what's the problem, America? We have voting machines that were not voted on by we the people, that we wanted them, we would pay for them, not as a lease, not as a let's try it and see what finds out, or to purchase. So on that note, I've been pontificating. Welcome to the show, Wayne. I am so glad to have you here. Ooh, take it away. Voting machines, let's talk about the different things that have been going on. In September of 2021, and I was in the courtroom, actually with Daniel, and you were called as a professional, may I say expert witness, in Rockingham County for a case Daniel had brought forward, and it was specifically regarding the safety of these New Hampshire AccuVote voting machines. What happened?
Well, I'll tell you. Remember, this is about the safety of the machines and not relative to the accuracy of the machines.
Correct.
Although there may be a correlation between them, that's not what I'm discussing. It was the case of Richard versus Sununu. I was called, or I was requested to do an analogy or a report for Mr. Richard. I completed the report, and I was really surprised after I looked into the case, what was going on. And first, under the New Hampshire Safety and Licensing Rules, which is Chapter Safe C 300, Safe C 9300.
Okay.
New Hampshire repealed its equivalent to OSHA, its Electrical Safety and Licensing Rules.
Now, OSHA is
The Occupational Safety and Health Administration of the federal government.
For employees?
For employees.
Okay.
So we're talking about the safety of employees that operate the machines, safety of the polling people that go in. But although OSHA doesn't cover it, it's also safety of the individuals going in to place their ballot. And part
In
of
the machine.
I'm sorry?
So placing their ballot in those machines.
That's correct. And I tell you, I don't place my ballot in the machines. I hand it to the person that's there, and then they have a special side door that they put ballots in who don't want to use the machines.
Correct.
Now, I don't do that because of the counting of the machines or the counting mechanism.
You do it because
I
of
do it
the-
because I don't trust the machines themselves. And the reason for that is when New Hampshire rescinded or repealed their act with regard to the electrical safety and licensing rules, what they did is they turned the state into an OSHA state. And an OSHA state means that if a state does not have a mechanism or a department in place that can test or make sure that the equipment within that state is functioning safely, then it falls upon OSHA, and they then have to go to OSHA for that.
And that's on the federal level.
And that's on the federal level. So New Hampshire is an OSHA state. And so if there is an issue with regard to employee safety, with regard to anything electronic, New Hampshire then has to go to OSHA, and OSHA then comes in. And as an example, there was a case that I was called upon for a very large hotel in New Hampshire a couple of years ago. And I went down there, and that a piece of equipment lost its UL label, which is Underwriter Laboratories. It's safety certification.
It's those little generally white tag, sticky tag on the electrical cord, and it says UL, meaning laboratory.
There's anywhere from 21, 23, something like that.
Different.
Safety certification companies
Okay.
that the U.S. government allows to do safety certifications for electronic or electrical systems.
Okay.
But you have to, anytime you sell equipment in the United States that is going to be exposed to the public or especially to workers, that piece of equipment has to be safety certified.
Okay.
Otherwise, you cannot use that equipment. It's the federal regulations state that you can't use that equipment. And like, for instance, under 29 Code of Federal Regulations, 1910 B2 is used in conformance to the approval of the devices themselves. And 1910-399 mandates all equipment must show to be approved. And that's a regulatory law. These approvals fall under the National Electrical Code as applied to what's called Subpart S of 29 Code of Federal Regulations 1910. So it's very well rooted in federal law. It's very well rooted as far as back as I can remember. And when I had that complication with that hotel in New Hampshire, that I did my report. OSHA and I worked together with regard to that situation, because I didn't want to put anybody out of business. I just wanted the bad thing fixed.
Correct.
And they almost shut the place down. I know they charged them $22,000 fine.
Wow.
For that
As
item.
a penalty, right?
Well, there were 5 different violations that they showed. 3 of them were major violations. 2 of them were minor. But all in all, they could have shut the hotel down. And they asked me, they said, what's your opinion? Do you think? I said, well, give them time, see if they're going to fix it.
Fix it, yeah.
And again, because we're talking about commerce, we're talking about bringing money into the state. And so that's what an OSHA state is.
So in talking about, and I hope I'm not jumping ahead, but we're talking about these voting machines, these the AccuVote Dominion voting machines that count the ballots. So if there's a hazard of voting with these voting machines in New Hampshire, Are we talking maintenance has not been
Well,
on a regular basis, or what are we talking about?
Let me explain the hazard. Anytime you open up a piece of electrical or electronic equipment, you are nullifying that UL label or the safety certification. You're not supposed to go into a piece of equipment. You're not supposed to tamper with it. There's even a law in New Hampshire under RSA section 659 42.
Yep.
659.42. Tampering with electronic ballot counting devices is prohibited. And tampering means you can't go into that machine and start tampering with it. You look up the word tampering. You can't move the components. You're actually not supposed to be able to open those machines. Well, the voting machines in New Hampshire have been here for decades. Now, if these machines were functioning okay after decades and nobody was doing anything to them, everybody turns their back and turns their head and say, look, we don't see anything. They've never been tampered with, okay. But what happened is there was a big to-do about these machines communicating with the computers and communicating with outside sources.
Yeah.
So the state of New Hampshire, in their divine and infinite wisdom, decided that the Attorney General's office would open the machines, cut out the components that communicate with the outside, not realizing that once you take a pair of cutters or scissors to any wire inside that's connected to the circuit board, you're going to damage that circuit board because of a charge that's already being maintained in a lot of those boards.
Correct.
A capacitor is one of the components that holds an electric charge. And if you shunt or cut wire that is shorting out that capacitor, it could damage other components around it.
And I know that to be true for a fact because in that hearing of September 2021, one of those 5 or 6 lawyers, while they left you outside, admitted, and it's actually on the record, that in 2010, they instructed the towns and the town clerks, i.e. LHS, to go in and actually do what you just described to all the voting machines. They A, opened it up, B, they cut, severed, removed, whatever that is, that component, put the top back on and...
Well, the problem with that now is they are no longer safety certified, and those machines operate on I believe it's a 4.2, 4.3, I don't have that document in front of me, gigahertz frequency. And now you don't know if that frequency has changed. One of the issues with regard to that is the NRTL, the Nationally Recognized Testing Laboratory, no longer supports the machines in Nashua because the manufacturer no longer manufactures the parts and no longer supports the machines.
So they don't have the hardware or the software to maintain it.
Well, the problem with the software is the software was supported by Microsoft. It's an XP type of software. It was supported by Microsoft, but then Microsoft back in 2014 was no longer supporting the software.
So we have machines that at a minimum since 2010 have no safety certification, since 2014 don't have software maintenance, and hardware is...
And then, 2019, Microsoft stopped sending them the other information with regard to software.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, you've got a machine that has no safety certification of the hardware or software. You don't know what's happening with the cards that are put into the
memory
machines
cards
that are programmed using the XP software, which is no longer being supported
by Microsoft.
By Microsoft, and so now you don't have any safety certification. And what does that mean? It means that if a person with a pacemaker, a person with any type of implanted device,
defibrillator,
electronic
cochlear
device,
implant, hearing aids,
anything like that, you don't know if any of those are going to be negatively impacted. I don't know if they're going to be negatively impacted. The reason why there is warnings with people who wear pacemakers not to go near certain pieces of electronic equipment.
Correct.
Don't hold a radio close to your chest, like a Sony Walkman or whatever they are. And that's because the frequencies can interfere with that. And and of course the medical reports I wrote, because as an electronic engineer, a lot of times I had to go into the medical backgrounds with regard to equipment and impact with regard to people. And it was recognized that some of these pieces of electronic equipment should not be near pacemakers, and they have a lot of them weren't even approved to be sold and were rejected. Some of them coming from out of the country that were sold in Germany and sold in Italy, and they said no, we can't allow those in here because our regulations state that the frequency with regard to the dissipation of those can interfere with pacemakers and implants.
And of course, with the actual cutting and removing or, just messing up of that part of the machines, we now, as you said, don't know what is the frequency.
The New Hampshire Attorney General put this on their website. They put their cutting on the website. And these are people that are supposed to enforce regulatory law. They're supposed to enforce state and federal laws.
So they put it on their website, plus they also admitted on the record in Daniel's case that they did that in 2010.
So, placing that aside, the thing that surprised me the most, because I said, well, let me go in there into the courtroom and let me see if I can calm everybody down, see if we can come up with an alternative arrangement that makes it safe for everybody.
Correct.
The thing that happened is the Attorney General showed up in person with his lieutenants. I approached them and I said, hello, my name's Wayne Sayer, and how are you doing? And I introduced myself. They said, we know who you are, and just understand, we're going to keep you off the witness stand.
They said that to your face?
Oh, yeah, they said it right to me.
Even though you were supposed to be there as an expert witness and testify?
Well, that's not the thing that surprised me. The thing that surprised me is...
Surprises me?
The thing that surprised me is when somebody says that they're going to keep you off the witness stand because you're about to expose information that is safety related for the public. And I'm saying, why would the Attorney General's office not want me to get on there or even talk to me on the side and say, look, what are you going to say, Wayne? Yeah, we want to protect the public and what's going on here.
What can
and maybe
we do?
We can work together.
Yeah.
That's not what happened.
No, they just said, you're not getting in there, you're not testifying, and we're keeping you off the stand. What blows my mind is, I know you're used to this. I am not, and I find that completely disgusting and vile and corrupt that they even could say that to your face when we're talking about the safety of the public.
Well, they said, you can't prove that. I says, and nobody can prove it. I mean, the reason why the federal government puts these regulations out is because you want to make sure it's not happening and not find out, like, for instance, with the COVID shot, that was it needed after all.
Correct.
It's not time to correct stupid. What it is it's time to say, look, let's see if we can warn the public that this may or may not be happening.
Correct.
But let's not take a chance. Let's pull the machines. Let's get a nationally recognized company in here and take a look at these machines and recertify them.
Correct.
The problem is that you can't recertify a machine that is no longer supported by its manufacturer.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so therefore, they're stuck. And they're saying, well, we either have to get rid of all the machines or we're going to have to keep Wayne off the stand, and we're just going to do this
short term, let's
anyway.
keep Wayne off the stand.
And that disturbs me. And because I figured that maybe we could do something where have a sign, anybody that has implantables or pacemakers or such and such, please hand your ballots to this person here, and they will put it in for you.
Place it in.
I mean, when I voted, what they told me afterwards, a couple of days later, I was advised that they were going to have a side panel
Yep.
on every voting machine,
Correct.
so that those people who did not want to chance using the machine could give their ballots to the person in advance, and you could watch them put it into the side of the machine.
Well, that was also stated in that same case, and a number of us went forward as ballot clerks and different people that volunteered on the voting days at the polling stations. People that we knew, people that asked. There were a few people that did ask that knew all about this. There were people with pacemakers, elderly people, and there is a side pocket there if you don't want to put it in there. And I was told straight out, and I have the email, that said that I needed to shut up and I was not to give unsolicited advice, even though I had heard it from the AG's mouth in this case.
Well, electromagnetic waves can impact anybody. I mean, it's one of the reasons why when you go to the hospital, which is the technician stands behind a LED screen or
Correct.
a LED window, even though that's on the microwave frequency. Microwave is a frequency.
Right.
And a couple of my patents are on frequency modulation and AM amplitude modulation and very high frequencies. So I believe what they needed to do here is they needed to err on the side of the public.
Caution.
And make sure that the public wasn't endangered, and that's the problem that I faced with. And they told me that, well, you know, we went in there, we had gloves on, we had it, we had a grounding cable going to the machine. I said, that's not a procedure that anybody is qualified unless you're an electronic design person, unless
So
you're
who
certified.
actually did this? Makes me want to ask the question,
Well,
who were the people that went in and just went snip, snip, snip and screwed the top back on?
Well, it was on their website. So, and I brought a couple of party favors here. And the reason why you get packages sometimes and your electronic circuit boards are in these packets
Right.
that have a yellow caution label on them. And these packages can go up to very large as well.
It says caution static sensitive devices not to be handled by unauthorized personnel. This is when you buy your TV, your computer, your laptop, your iPad, your phone.
Well, one of the reasons they do that is because the body itself holds a tremendous quick discharge because we are electrical. I mean, and if a person, like for instance, I have hair on my arms, I have hairs all over, but even those people that don't, you have there are people that are highly dischargeable and some people that aren't. But if you're going to open up a machine and all of a sudden you go into that machine and touch it, that's a no-no. And that's why these regulations are in place, because you don't know if you have damaged a resistor, a transistor, a diode, and the electrostatic discharge, which is ESD. ESD is one of the tests that they use when they safety test at Underwriter Labs or one of the other 22 certified companies. And ESD is, in humans, our tissue produces very strong electrical field in short durations. And the ESD standard used by the NRTLs in the US is ANSI, what's called ANSI EDS 2020. So it's not like somebody's trying to come in here and make this stuff up and just cause a panic with everybody.
It's right there.
And the reason is because what happens if somebody isn't taking blood thinners, has a pacemaker, they're doing fine, all of a sudden they get a couple of skips, and 3 days later those couple of skips turn into a
Blood
stroke.
clots or a stroke.
And there's no way of telling. So can you imagine somebody going after the state of New Hampshire with litigation because they are accusing New Hampshire of not protecting them when they should have been protecting them? That's what government is for. It's to protect the people.
Yeah.
And they haven't done it. How is New Hampshire now going to go back and defend themselves when they themselves are the people that actually contributed to the problem?
Correct.
You can't defend yourself.
And,
You're
and
gonna
then
start
put it
paying
on the
people out.
website. On top of it, admitted it in a website and admitted it in a court of law.
Well, yeah.
I mean, talk about. tying yourself up in knots.
I just think that our executive is just getting very bad advice. Mr. Sununu is just getting bad advice from people that are surrounding him. Now, whether it's because it's his former lawyer who is the Attorney General,
Correct,
or whether it has something else to do with it, I don't know, and I don't want to get involved in it. All I know is that
the safety of the public is paramount.
They need to fix it.
Yeah.
I'm right after today, I'll be notifying Nashua and letting them know, look, I need you to, because I know Nashua uses the AccuVote machines.
Yep.
Mainly because I've been there and I've watched them, and I handed my ballot 25 feet away, even though sometimes 25 feet isn't enough.
Correct.
But I felt like I was in a good mood. I went in. I'm definitely going to do my voting, and I did vote, and they did put my ballot in the side of the machine, and I left. And then of course I took a couple of aspirin for a week straight because I'm not on any medication.
You don't want to take a chance.
No, I don't want to take a chance. But what are those people that don't know that they're supposed to be making sure that they're protecting themselves?
Well, and then the actual selectmen and the clerks and the town administrator, the selectmen, aldermen that actually are there working, plus all the volunteers that are exposed to these machines.
Well, a company called LHS Associates,
Yep.
They were formed in 1972 by three partners. Okay. And I'll make this very quick. But there are two main partners now running the show. It's a Massachusetts company operated in New Hampshire as a foreign entity.
Didn't they originally, this company originated in Canada?
Well, I wasn't interested in that. I was interested in what they were doing now in New England. And the people that are working with me I explained to them, this is what I want, and they go and get it for me.
Interesting. Okay.
And so now one of the two partners owns a real estate holding company located in the same New Hampshire office as the same office where the voting machine company is. And it's a real estate holding company. So he's a real estate guy, and he also sells voting machines. And his partner is the computer guy. And from everything that I've been reading, all the stuff that I've been getting in the mail and reading. But I'm not going to get into the details regarding LHS at this time.
Correct.
There's a lot of moving parts there, and more people are involved in that. I think what needs to be done, what needs to be discussed here is making sure that these voting machines are not used anymore. I mean, everybody is paying maintenance on these machines.
Right. I went to the town hall and got that information.
But LHS is not a nationally recognized testing lab. So, and they're paying somebody who is not certified to do this. They're paying somebody who is working on a machine that is no longer supported. It's so antiquated that you could put it in a museum. They just got to get these machines out.
Correct.
And just, at least for this coming election, they need to at least go paper ballots and use paper ballots.
Well, we have paper ballots. I believe I don't know if Manchester and Nashua are, but I know most of the cities and towns have paper ballots. They simply use those machines to tabulate and count.
Then still take,
so you take the paper and hand count them like the Constitution says.
That's it. Well,
it's never been amended, so
it keeps the people safe.
Yeah.
And this is something that they're going to need to do. That's all I have to say for now anyway.
Exactly. So as this develops, I certainly would like you to come back and keep we, the public, up to date on what we should be looking for. I believe not in a million years would any of our citizens, taxpayers, and New Hampshire people believe that it could be potentially a safety hazard to get near those machines if you have some kind of implanted device.
Well, I don't like to use the word potentially, and the main reason is because...
Well, I'm saying that because I don't know any better.
The reason is because the federal government says they are all unsafe until otherwise
well,
proven.
there you go. I'm being kind and saying potential, and we have the federal government saying...
Well, I mean, look, spoke with OSHA, both in Concord about this issue, and I ended up having to go to the regional office. I had to speak with the NRTL people down in another state. And initially, they were okay in speaking with me because I had to have a good relationship with them until they found out it was a voting machine. Once they found out it was a voting machine, I have emails that says, Wayne, don't call us on this issue anymore. Wayne, we don't want to talk to you anymore. And this is the federal government. So, stay tuned because there's
more to come.
Well, yeah.
There's more to come.
Yeah.
And we need to be forewarned. We need to be informed. And I just want to thank you for coming forward. I don't know if I should use the terminology that they have all those gentlemen up in Washington, D.C. that are testifying.
Well,
it's seeming to me that
I was there the other day, and it's a mess up there.
it is a mess up there,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, it is.
So, we're talking to somebody that testifies regularly in the city, state Washington. It was not a state, Washington, D.C. And so you know what you're talking about.
Well, I mean, I don't testify a lot.
Well, more than I
I'm
do.
in a lot of
so
offices.
that's a lot.
But there's a lot of concerned people there, people that don't want to even say that they're concerned. I mean, because they want to keep their jobs. But that's
What a
another
shame.
issue.
That's
that
another
I'm not
issue
even
and
gonna get
another
into.
story for another day.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
thank you so much. I appreciate you coming in. Thank you for, it may sound silly, but thank you for your bravery, and thank you for caring about this state and the people of this state that you brought this forward.
Well, I've been here for over 30 years. I love it here. I love the people. Regardless of what City Hall thinks of me in Nashua, I love every one of them. I mean, I have nothing against any one of them, including the mayor. I'll have coffee with him tonight. So, but,
It's just right is right, wrong is wrong, and we need
yeah,
to follow
I mean,
the
that,
law and keep the people safe.
That's it. I think they try their best with what they're confronted with, and maybe we can work together. But it's all up to them and not up to me.
I'm thinking we got to reel a lot of them way in.
Well, we'll see.
So thank you again, and make sure that you join me next week, Just Jocelyn, and see what I get up to. Have a great night. Thank you.